Hello, friends. As we approach the High Holy Days, we ourselves or someone we know may be grieving the loss of a loved one this past year. The first Rosh Hashanah without a loved one is always enormously hard. People around us are getting ready for family traditions. Maybe it's a Rosh Hashanah family dinner or even going to services with family members. For the one who's grieving, it feels like nothing seems like it always has been. In the midst of our first year of integrating profound loss, we can feel surrounded by other people's plans and celebrations. We may even be triggered by the simple greeting, L'Shana Tova. These words can feel like salt in a wound. A good year for who? It may exacerbate our feelings of sadness and pain. This can be a time when we feel more alone than ever. For those of you who are in mourning or care about someone who is grieving, what can we do during this challenging time? Lee Pollock, a licensed clinical social worker and longtime leader at the Bay Area Jewish Healing Center, offers 8 insightful and potentially comforting suggestions. So I encourage you to listen carefully, and if there's something that speaks to you, for yourself or for someone you know, you may want to access these. So she begins with number 1, planning ahead. She writes, and I quote, "Anticipatory preparation is a coping tool that can ease the impact of the holiday itself." End quote. Thinking ahead can mitigate what might otherwise emotionally ambush you. Number 2 is assess traditions. She writes, "Be realistic about what you can handle. This is the time to set limits. Think about priorities and eliminate the pressures of, I have to do it this way because I always have." If nothing else, death teaches us about impermanence. It pushes us to rethink all that we rely on and allows us to redefine long-held patterns. There are always new approaches to old traditions, and whatever happens this year does not need to be an unchangeable blueprint for all future years. Number 3, balance solitude and sociability. Lee writes, "Grief is exhausting. It requires a lot of internal readjusting, and it takes a lot of energy. So, intersperse alone time to revitalize and to let down with outside time to be with others. Schedule your own special moments to let it all out. You may find that clears some space for comfort, even moments of pleasure." Number 4, acknowledge memories. Remember that grief does not let you choose between pain and pleasure. Rather, it's a state that involves learning how to manage the pain that exists so that we can discover pleasures that also coexist. Any mourner realizes that our loved ones are never forgotten. Relationships don't end with death, but instead become transformed. Memories are important tools for healing. Shared memories promote bonds between friends and family. Sorrow shared is sorrow diminished. Including your deceased loved one in your holiday plans can be both creative and comforting. You can burn a special candle, read a special poem, put out a favorite picture. It does make a difference. Number 5. This is a trap that many people who are grieving become caught in. Lee writes, "Don't accept silence." Perhaps the greatest myth of all is that if the deceased is not spoken about, the mourner will not think of him or her. All of us who have mourned know that this is ridiculous. When, during a holiday period, do we not think of loved ones? How much more comforting is it to be able to share our recollections than to be isolate in solitary thought? How wonderfully heartwarming to know that someone else is thinking of our loved one and that they care too. By breaking codes of silence, mourners find that they are not alone. In these ways, the deceased lives on in our lives. So this is really important if you know someone that's mourning or grieving, to check in and see if, to bring it up, see how they're feeling, ask about them. Don't get caught in the trap of silence. I know this is a lot, but I think it's really worth considering. So I'm going to move on to number 6. Lee Pollock writes, think about others. It's never only about you, even if you feel so. It's hard to realize that when we see the outside of others, we may misread the insides. We can never really tell who, like ourselves, is hurting. You will be amazed at how much you can gain by reaching out. The benefits far outweigh the energy it takes to, and it can be so rewarding. There are many ways to volunteer in our community, in person or remotely, and so many people who will welcome a kind word or gesture or invitation. Number 7. This one may seem counterintuitive, but it's so important. Lee Pollock writes, seek pleasure. With the death of your loved ones, some parts of your life have died too, but not all. There are still people and things that are special and meaningful to you. Sure, lots may make you cry, but there can be laughter too. If you can't think of anything that will make you feel good, try something that used to work, or try something that someone else suggests. Important things to try. Finally, number 8, use resources. In this community, they are all around you. There are special prayers and readings in the High Holy Day Prayer Book. There are professional as well as personal resources. You need not walk alone as you walk the mourner's path. Invite someone to go with you to see someone you know is in mourning. Lee Pollock writes, today's mourners become tomorrow's comforters, who become the next day's mourners, who become... That is the true cycle of the seasons and the years. Lee concludes, it's tempting to dread the Jewish holidays when one is a mourner. And yes, you will have some difficult moments, but it is possible to experience comfort and pleasure too. Try some of these suggestions or offer them to someone you care about who's grieving. Remember that if a loss has become a part of your life, it's because you have loved and cared. These Jewish holidays may inspire us to review and remember, and they can also truly be time for new starts and new beginnings as well. We can come together in grief as well as in hope as we wish for us all a Shana Tova. I want to again thank Lee Pollock for these lovely suggestions. Stay safe and be well. Shalom uvracha, peace and blessings.